Well, hello, everybody. It is so cool to be here catching up with all of you. We are live with our first ever e-commerce explored webinar. This is a whole new series that we're doing here, which I am super excited about because sorry, I had my tablet running to check it's actually happening and I hadn't silenced it. So sorry about that, everybody, if you've got a bit of feedback going on there. So I am super excited that we've brought this to you because this is our new series of webinars where we are getting into, where we are exploring, let it be said, the big topics in e-commerce. Our first one, Black Friday, obviously a huge topic, but we're going to be running through some slightly more unusual topics, but still super important ones as we go through, doing one of these a month for the foreseeable future. I'll tell you more about what's coming up with this series later on in this webinar. But for now, we're all about Black Friday. And we're about Black Friday because it's obviously very, very soon. I know some of you are like majorly prepped, and others of you are not at all prepped. Who knows which one of you is going to make that turn out for the best? My camp is in the ones who are already prepped, but you may be possibly capable of pulling it all together in fine form. We are taking a slightly different angle on Black Friday in this session, which is we are all about what's the best way to drive profit. Because this Black Friday is going to be different than previous Black Fridays, haven't they all been, quite frankly? We've got consumers wanting more value. We've got all kinds of changes in the economic space. And I certainly think that we are heading to a place where profit is going to be more important than just sales for the sake of sales. So that's what we're looking at today. How can you make Black Friday that little bit more profitable for your business? Now, to help me answer all your questions, or to answer your questions and to have a discussion about all of this, I have three fabulous guests who will be joining me very shortly. We've got Claudiu Cioba from Videowise. We've got Burc Tanir from Prisync, and we've got Fiona Stevens from Loyalty Lion. So three very different perspectives on e-commerce here to learn from us all, or to teach us all, in fact. The other thing which I should say before we bring them up on stage is a huge thank you to our sponsors for this webinar. So Videowise and Prisync have helped fund essentially everything that you're going to be seeing now, helped us put this on, and it is brilliant to be partnering with them on such a crucial topic that I know is going to help you all out. We are very keen to take your questions. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be tuning in for the replay because you all know up front we're going to let you have the replay so you can share this with your teams, so you can watch at a time that works for you. But if you've come along to join us live and you've got questions for us, you will see a chat box on the screen that you can use to send your questions through to me. So add those as you find them, as you get them. I would love to see them, and I will pose them to our speakers. However, if you're just loving the stuff we're discussing about, that's totally fine. And we will carry on and talk about what we think we should be talking about too. But yeah, if you've got questions, please do add them in for us. Right. I think it's time we bring our brilliant panelists up and get them to tell us all a little bit more about them and their thoughts about Black Friday. Hello, team. How are you?
Hello.
Hello.
Brilliant to have you all here. Thank you for taking the time to prep and to be here. It's brilliant to have you all joining us. Like I said, I'd really love you first off to introduce yourselves. We'll start with Fiona and then we'll go kind of round in a lovely circle. So Fiona, tell us a bit more about you and your expertise, and tell us a bit about Loyalty Lion and what you guys are bringing to the table.
Brilliant. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I absolutely love doing these sessions. So I'm Fiona Stevens, Marketing Director at Loyalty Lion. I've been working in marketing for, goodness, around about 15 years. Lots of different agency side specialisms and then in-house, but been really focused on e-commerce and loyalty for around about 8 or 9 years now. Proud to say that I've been part of the Loyalty Line team for the past 5 years or so. We're a loyalty platform. We help Shopify brands increase repeat purchases with their own loyalty programs. And I'm becoming more and more obsessed with loyalty and retention as a topic day by day.
It is one of those topics that the more you learn about it, the more you just become obsessed.
Mm.
Like it's one, if I go to a session at an event that's on loyalty and retention, pretty much it's the only thing in my head for a good hour afterwards, and I'll find myself on the train back writing loyalty and retention strategies. Really does creep in under the skin, doesn't it?
It's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. Okay, Claudiu, tell us more about you, your expertise, and Videowise, and what you guys bring to the table, please.
Thank you so much for having me, Chloe. My name is Claudiu. I come from a product design background, about 15 years of experience, ex-Uber and other enterprise companies that I've consulted. And I've put all of that product design experience into building a video platform specifically designed for e-commerce, for brands and retailers. What we do at Videowise is we optimize websites with video content, where we increase conversions, average order value, and the overall engagement of a consumer on the site. We're replacing all traditional video solutions as a disruptor like Vimeo or YouTube that people are usually used to, with something specifically designed for brands. That's what Videowise does, and I'm really excited to talk about Black Friday, Chloe.
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. And I feel like video is one of those subjects which we all know we should be doing, but so many brands still have put one video on YouTube and got, that'll do, but there's so much more potential if we actually tap into it and commit to it properly, isn't there?
Of course, especially with the rise of TikTok, Instagram Reels, all brands have so much content these days, and they could strategically use it, make it shoppable, make it interactive to increase their margins and conversions on their website, for sure.
Nice. Okay. Burc, how about you? Tell us a bit more about your experience and Prisync and what you guys bring to the table, please.
Sure. Well, firstly, thanks, Lost, for having us. It's great to be here with Fiona, Claudiu, and you, Chloe. So as you briefly introduced, I'm Burc, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Prisync, which is, in a nutshell, I would say an e-commerce pricing automation, pricing optimization software. So starting with what I kind of try to bring to the table, I would say we are really trying to bring profit to the table, very honestly. And I would like to say, you just said that this year's Black Friday is different for people because we will put, profit first. But very frankly, I think we were talking about profit for Black Friday, Cyber Monday before it was cool. So since the very beginning of the company, which was about 10 years ago. So we really got into this pricing automation, pricing optimization journey with just one goal in mind: to drive, more profit for merchants who are typically multi-brand retailers, I would say. So who are facing very harsh price competition across the board, regardless of their industry, regardless of their country. So with Prisync, with our software, we just simply help those merchants automatically benchmark all their competition. And on top of that insight, they can decide on, profitable and competitive pricing at the same time. And we just simply automate what's really, decided by the merchant. So we typically work with, Shopify merchants. We serve about hundreds of merchants across 60 countries. And, Black Friday, Cyber Monday is actually a big topic for us, because that's really honestly where we really see peak demand for our software as well. But I would also really try to add some, I would say, controversial comments on that. So I really think that, when it comes to pricing, Black Friday, Cyber Monday period doesn't necessarily need to be the peak period, because it's, I think, a 12-month sprint, 12-month marathon kind of thing rather than a sprint. But let me spare those thoughts maybe for the later time.
I'm not sure that is controversial, but we'll see. We'll see where we get to.
Sure.
So, audience, we know we have some amazing experts. If you didn't think they were amazing before, you do know they're amazing now. So if you've got questions, please do put those in the chat box that should be to the side of the video that you're looking at right now, and I will do my best to get them answered by the team before we wrap up. So let's start with the big question, guys. What is your number one tip for Black Friday 2023? The retailers you're speaking to at the moment, the brands who are knocking on your door, filling in the live chat going, help me. What's your number one piece of advice for them at the moment? Claudiu, you appear to be nodding, so I'm going to come to you first on this one. What are you telling people to do?
It's so funny because you're mentioning this. Right now, we've been onboarding tens of brands this month. And with a lot of our largest clients and also the new clients, what everyone has on their mind is making sure that their website is fully optimized. We're performing a ton of A/B testing, and we're trying to squeeze the last percentage of conversion rate out of all of their PDPs, all of their landing pages, their entire website. And we do that with strategic placement of content, video testimonials, UGC on the page, product presentation. We increase the page speed by removing any of their MP4 or hard-coded videos. YouTube, we get rid of all of that. And we increase the page speed with Videowise. But that's the number one tip, is make sure that you're draining and you're squeezing and milking out the less percentage of conversion, so that when that bell hits, when Black Friday comes, when the holidays come, you need to make sure that your landing pages, your funnel is fully optimized so that you can get that positive ROAS out of all of those, marketing money that you're going to be spending in order to promote your campaigns. That's the number one thing that we're like, my entire customer success team right now is working really hard with all of our clients, just performing hard A/B testing on all of their funnels, making sure that everything's perfect, everything's optimized and ready to go. And they've started since late August. Like, people are starting early. This is something that I've noticed this year. They've started early, but we also have clients from last year who haven't changed one pixel on the page. We worked so well last year. They haven't even changed one video or anything. They kept everything exactly the same since last Black Friday to this one. So if you see something that works really great, I would always don't fix it if it ain't broken. I always recommend that. But
once and done is always good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once and done. Love a once and done e-commerce tactic. And if Black Friday finally makes us do it, then brilliant. So loving that. And that also suggests to me, if we've got that big focus on conversion rate, that's about squeezing every bit of margin out and making it that bit more profitable as well. So loving that's what you're seeing and recommending. Burc, how about you? What's happening in your world? What's your number one piece of advice to customers at the moment?
I think I would echo a bit what Claudiu said when it comes to starting early. That's definitely a trend that we have been seeing in the last few years, I would say. So not necessarily just for this year, but I think last year, this holiday season kind of also got started earlier, like in August, as he said. So my suggestion is also kind of along those lines. So when, for example, I hear about something like we are going to plan for Black Friday, Cyber Monday in September kind of words, from our merchants, we recommend starting early. But contrary to that, we also kind of, this might be again a controversial bit, but we also recommend them not to overplan, in the sense that we see a lot of, overplanning. There's this saying from Mike Tyson, which is everybody has a plan until they get a punch in the face. So I think this happens a lot with holiday season, peak season planning. So people just sit in their boardrooms. I don't know, depending on the size of the company, this can be a boardroom, this can be a garage or whatever, and they actually just plan a lot of stuff in isolation from the market reality, market data, which are obviously in today's actually landscape, recession and all, but also competitive landscape. So they just actually set, for example, a terribly calculated, terribly guesstimated, I would say, blanket discounting, 30% off for all items, and they just spray and pray, and they actually wait till they get the results after the holiday season, and eventually it turns out bad. So we just simply recommend those merchants to actually not obviously firstly come up with those blanket discounted strategies, which are actually 30%, X% off, $50 off on all items, on all these brands, etc. But we actually recommend them to actually segment their products. So to see which products, which items really need, deep discounting, which items probably, for example, won't need any sort of discounting, etc. during the peak season. So really to segment their products depending on their price competitiveness, discounting levels, etc., rather than applying the same discount to all. And also, again, to avoid this bad results after the peak period, we also, try to emphasize them that this is again a period. So this is not just something where you just start and just actually sit in your chair and then wait what happens next. But you can really kind of monitor what's going on a daily basis, because as we just said, take a period from August till October. So you cannot just actually wait till the results come in 2 months' time. You can monitor what's going on a daily basis, what your competition is also offering. For example, just recently, they might just come up with a way better discount than you actually maybe proposed a week ago. So you might need to revise your strategy. So we are again in a kind of a micro lens. We are also telling them that this is actually a marathon, even though it looks very fast-paced. Still, you need to be calm. You need to be monitoring things. You can make little tweaks and everything. So being agile in terms of your planning, your I think pricing in our case is vital. So don't overplan. Just make sure that you can change things here and there during this period, because again, it's a period. It's not just one snapshot of moment or something. And then, I think these would be this is actually what we are really actively recommending to our clients now, or all new clients that we are onboarding.
I think that's such a brilliant thing to bring up, and I kind of garbled talking about it in my intro, but it is that you should have some kind of plan by now, but you've got to resist that urge to create the perfect plan, which is a form of procrastination and a form of avoiding doing the actual marketing. And then you've got to, so there's kind of this fine line between the perfect plan and not planning too much. But there's also then, how much do we react to what the market's doing? How much don't we react to what the market's doing? Because there's also, as well as people creating bad plans, there's also this thing of where people just go, oh no, person A has just taken 70% off everything, I'd better do the same. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Why would you do the same? So yeah, loving you've given us a lot to think about there, Burc. Thank you. Fiona, what are you telling customers at the moment? What's your number one tip for Black Friday 2023?
I've had too much time to think about it. I've got 4 or 5 now. I think, to follow on from what Burc just said, one of my favorite acronyms is the keep it simple, stupid. And I think that's probably quite relevant at this point. But no, number one tip, I might be a little bit biased, but I think really you've got a period of time before the sales start where you can be prioritizing your returning customers. So yes, Black Friday, we all hope that loads of new shoppers are going to come through the door, but actually, with any luck, a lot of your loyal customers are going to come back too. And I think prioritizing keeping those people warm over the next few months in the run-up is absolutely crucial. I would obviously say try and launch a loyalty program, but it doesn't have to be all bells and whistles. It can be really, really simple. You just want something that gives you an excuse to reach out to people who have shopped with you before. Maybe they're quite loyal, they come back, great. How are you going to make sure they choose you over Black Friday? Maybe they actually haven't purchased in the time frame that you would want them to. So how are you going to make sure that they have an incentive or a reason to come back to you instead of somebody else once the sale does start? We did some research recently. I think we found it was something like 75 or 76% of consumers want to return to brands that they have points and rewards with already over Black Friday. So I think my top tip would just be, don't make everything about new customers. Use this time to reconnect with customers that you've already spent that hard money and hard time converting in the past.
I couldn't agree more. And I think for me, one of the kind of the thing which comes back to me again and again about Black Friday, which really builds on some of the stuff that Burc was just saying and some of the stuff that Fiona was just saying, and certainly doesn't disregard what Claudio is just saying, is Black Friday. Your Black Friday activity starts now. The Black Friday weekend or the Black Friday week, whatever it ends up being, is like a bun fight in trying to get into the email inboxes, trying to get into the SMS, trying to get into the Facebook ad space, the TikTok ad space. It's absolute nightmare of competition. And if you can spend, and the CPMs and all the rest of it go up as well. So if you can spend time now recruiting customers, so you've got a stronger group of customers, fresh, new, eager to love you customers to be marketing to when you get up to Black Friday, the September, October, November profitability goes through the roof. And it's just a much better place. Why spend your ad budget when it's costing you when your ROAS comes down because of competition levels, because at the time when you're discounting, when you could spend it at the time when you're not discounting as heavily and when the competition is lower, so the pricing is lower. That would be my number one tip. Okay, we've had a question. Go for it.
No, I think something that would maybe encourage what Fiona just said. Like in the recent years, I think this happened mostly after COVID and all. We noticed that loyalty is mostly assumed by merchants, and it's actually kind of loyalty is fastly decreasing in the merchants. And I think the reason why that's happening is that people are really taking loyalty for granted. So they just think that their consumers are loyal, even though they don't really apply any sort of loyalty programs via tools like Loyalty Lion. So they think that they will just come back and buy from them. But what we see, for example, as a complaint from new demand coming to us, they are just mostly saying that, well, we had a lot of repeat buyers, but now actually we are losing them to the others. So we are actually facing margin pressures, etc. So to echo what Fiona just said, I think really doubling down on loyalty, I think it's a must to really have a program. So I think you just, didn't want to like oversell your product, Fiona. That's what I felt. But like I'm on the objective side, so I would maybe push that further. So I think it's sort of a must to really have something in place to really protect your margins, because otherwise I think that loyalty that we took for granted for years is long dead, I would say. So people are just simply like, forgetting about the brands that they loved, they preferred. They just go for another, retailer selling kind of the same or substitute stuff, like 5% less, 10% less, for all the obvious economic reasons. So I think that's also closely tied with profit margins. That's also what I see.
I love that. I love that you're supporting each other in the panel as well.
Okay, I paid him earlier.
Excellent. A little bit of bribery going around.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So we had, so I run a little e-commerce community, a little e-commerce club called imaginatively Chloe's e-commerce club, and I asked them for questions in advance of this, and I've got a few that I might drop in as we go, but I had one which is an absolute stonker. It's the question I kind of want to ask, and it came in, it fits in very well with the profitability side. So Paul Baines, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this on the replay, thank you for your question. And Paul asked, if you don't do sales ever, how do you approach Black Friday? If you ignore that it's happening, is there another approach? This is essentially should you opt out of Black Friday? And if so, how do you do it? Because it's a big old question, so I'll give you all a couple of seconds to think whilst I add a bit more to this. So during the pandemic, I was working quite closely with a brand in the UK who weren't doing Black Friday because they were running out of stock. And they still on Black Friday had their biggest sales day ever, selling full price product because their customers had a section of their wallet which was to be spent with them, and they were waiting to spend it. And when no offer came through, they went, well, I better get the stock. I better make sure I get my gifts. So there's definitely an option for tapping into that consumer desire to spend on that day. What's your experience? Have you come across brands who opt out? Have you seen clever ways of doing it? Would you turn everything off? Would you still do things? Lots of smiling faces. Claudia, let's come to you first for this one.
I mean, it's such a complex question, to be honest. You can have so many answers, and so you can answer the question from so many angles.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you some thoughts and things that I've learned. I don't come from an e-commerce background. I come from product design, so very different, very holistic product design for software. And I've had to walk into this industry with no knowledge and learn everything. Just connect with people 3 years ago when I started and learn everything there is to learn. And I don't think I'll ever step out of this industry. Like, I'll always build within this industry.
It sucks you in, e-commerce. It sucks you in. It gets its hooks in and you can never leave.
But some of the things that I've learned and some of the tactics that the largest brands that we work with do, and they do it so successfully, is obviously it depends a lot on the type of product that you're selling. You cannot apply these tactics to every type of product. So the type of product you're selling, the value of the products is one thing to sell $5 products or like $500 products. So like different tactics have to be applied depending on the value of the product, the type of the product. I think the most important thing that they do is they know their audience and they start segmenting their audience. And even if you have a new brand, you need to know who you're selling to first and foremost. Some of the most ROI positive type of clients are your already loyal clients, the abandoned cart type of people. Like, those are the low-hanging fruits of the business. But if you're starting a new business, to refer to your question, you're not going to have them. So you're going to appeal to new clients. And what you need to do is you need to have a great hook for the products that you're selling. You either create some great value, great launch of that product, great price for the product. Like, the discounting has to be very strategic. What we've seen work great is urgency, a sense of urgency, not just a hook, but a sense of urgency, like a limited time edition, a drop, a limited time stock, available only for Black Friday. These types of urgencies that will push consumers to actually go and like, okay, this is one time only, or like, it just happens right now. It's a great product. It's great value. It's a great deal. I got to buy this right now. Because in the question, you're asking about a business doing this for the first time, like no previous clients, right? They don't have any loyal customers or anyone abandoning their cart. They don't even maybe have an email list, right? So they're probably going to push this through like advertising channels like Meta ads. So I think that strategic discounting with with this sense of urgency will work really great. What we've seen work great on Black Friday was bundling. So when they would bundle products, that was working very, very, very well. They would sell more products. They would have better margins, profit margins. They were able to sell their overstock from the rest of the year, like anything that they got like on the stock that they couldn't sell. They're just going to offer maybe like free gifting, buy up to $100 and get this free gift. So these types of tactics worked amazing. Gifting, bundling, limited time offers, and this strategic discounting. I don't think for a new brand, they're going to be affected by brand reputation, because in your question, this brand is new. They don't have any reputation right now. So I don't think they should worry about it. Just go for it. But in my opinion, if they do that, I think they're going to be successful, just based on what I've seen the past 3 years work. But again, I'm sure that both Fiona and Burc can answer this question from a different angle, because it's a really open question, So.
I think, Claudiu, you've given us some really, really great ways there for kind of doing Black Friday without doing Black Friday, which I think is where the profit side of things come in. Is I think everyone just thinks Black Friday, I've got to take a huge percentage off everything. But you made it really clear in there that there's like, you can play with Black Friday without playing with Black Friday. You can run it for just one day rather than 3 weeks. You can pick a selection of products you don't really want anymore. And you can put the discounts on that. You can bundle, you can free gift, do this kind of thing. So I'm loving that. Fiona, your take on this. Should we opt out? Should we not opt out?
It is, as Claudia said, it's a big question, but interestingly, it's top of mind for me because one of my team wrote a blog post on it the other day. So I've got some quite good examples fresh in my mind, but I don't think you have to discount or run a sale for Black Friday just because everybody else is, if it's not what your customers are used to. Because I think then you run a risk of conditioning them to discounts that they don't usually have, and you run a risk of changing their perception of your brand if you are not a brand that discounts typically. However, I do think peak is a huge opportunity to make your best customers feel special and give them a reason to shop with you. So if you're not running discounts, you may want to look at something else that still gives them that reason to come back, but also makes them feel special. So, there are things that don't harm your profitability. You could give them early access to a new product range that you launch at that time. You could give them queue jump priority shipping. You could launch some exclusive content that only your most valuable customers can get around Black Friday. These are things that they really don't cost you very much to deliver, but they will make those customers feel good about returning to you, even though you're not offering a sale and you're not setting yourself up for future discounts. But I do think there are some, if you are going to opt out, there are some really creative ways of doing it. And I'm going to test my memory, but the blog that we just wrote, I think we had Patagonia in there. Mm-hmm. They were encouraging people to only buy what they need and for sustainability reasons. So that kind of resonated with their audience. We had, I think it was Ray did Opt Outside, and they had a whole social media campaign basically on, we're opting out of Black Friday, so should you go for a walk instead, and then post your picture wearing our brand. Fantastic. And I think Allbirds was the most interesting one because they actually raised their prices over Black Friday.
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. And they gave the difference to charity. And I don't know, I'm not in their teams. I don't know how well it worked, but certainly they've given the impression that it worked. And again, I don't think people mind if you want to opt out, but you need to give them something different to engage with or another reason to come back. And I think actually that's a pretty fun challenge for a marketing team.
Yeah, I think it has to come back to, or frequently it comes back to the values of the business, whether those are eco values or whether those are we just don't discount values or brand values or, personal opinion values of the founder. But it kind of comes down to that, which then should give you a good, not excuse, but explanation. So then it becomes something more interesting. And I have to say, I do find it quite weird sometimes when there are very eco brands where, fundamentally we all need to consume less. That's the fundamental challenge in e-commerce at the moment. The world needs to consume less, and we're trying to make people buy more. But a brand who's put their stake in that space and who are going, buy loads of stuff on Black Friday with a massive discount. It just doesn't quite compute for me.
No, and I think you have to be a little bit careful of, you know, the whole greenwashing thing. If you have no links or ties to sustainability and you're not practicing any sustainability, then yeah, don't take that as your angle. It does have to be genuine, and it does have to tie back to your brand. But even on the, you know, luxury brands, they don't discount because they're luxury brands, but lots of people will be waiting for Black Friday to make that kind of purchase. So things like the VIP experiences, you know, selling that handbag with, I don't know, a care guide that no one else can. That's a very bad example, but you know what I mean. You know, or you know, if it's high-end jewelry, a get the look guide that nobody else has access to. I think there's some experience-based stuff that people can be doing that does tie back to whatever product you're selling or whatever value system, belief system your customers have. And I think more and more that's going to resonate, not for everybody as much as a discount, but for your returning customers quite possibly.
And I building on that a little bit, and Burc, I'll let you answer this one in a second, I promise. But building on that one a bit, I think a missed opportunity with the bundling and these kind of pieces, especially when you're talking to your, you know, your hottest customers, the ones that love you the most, is not offering them a free video course, which we'd normally sell for £300 that we'll give you for free, or a free, you know, if you're selling herbal teas or, you know, really nice teas or really nice coffees, we're going to do an exclusive webinar for everyone who buys on Black Friday with a session on how to make the perfect coffee and where our coffee comes from, where our chocolate, whatever it might be, or a PDF download that we'd normally sell for £10, but you can have for free and it's exclusive. That kind of stuff is so low margin, so low cost and so massive margin. It can really add on a value stack. Obviously, it's got to be valuable, useful, and interesting to your consumers. You can't just do a one page that says go and take a walk. That was a bad example, but anyway, you get what I'm on about. But your take on opting out of Black Friday, I'm guessing you're a lot close, being in the pricing space, you have a better idea of how much this could cost us or not cost us.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, I think even though I'm coming from a pricing background, my answer might not be really guessed that easily, because I would say, I mean, I'm surely like supporting merchants, like by doing this business, we support merchants who are actively discounting, right? So we try to help them, you know, better discount in a way. But I also am against kind of in a mindset, against a mindset which kind of, you know, looks like as if you have a switch in your mind, which kind of turns on during Black Friday, or like during peak season, and it kind of turns off during the rest of the year. So it's something like, for example, you never run. So you, as a sports, you just only walk. And for, let's say, one day you decide running 15K, I don't know, 20K at high pace. Obviously, you would just get injured. So I see this something like that. So I am a big fan of brands or, you know, retailers who are trying to like continuously in a marathon way, like offer best prices forever in a way, like always low prices, like Walmart does, for example. So they don't really try to convince their buyers during a certain period of time with better pricing, but they actually do this during the remaining, let's say 11 or 10 months of the year, during which people are still buying, right? So we shouldn't really forget that people still buy stuff on January, I don't know, February, March, during summer as well. So I think thinking about discounting, you know, pricing strategies, etc., during that period of time also makes sense. So if you would, for example, consider opting out, maybe kind of pushing that message might be a good idea. And actually, we just discussed this with a brand of ours in consumer electronics space. So you would expect them to maybe like heavily discount and everything, but those guys were actually thinking about something like that this year. Well, they will actually use this in national TV, by the way, in ads and everything. They will say that we are not really going to particularly discount for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, because we are always offering great prices to you guys, etc. So I think this logic can be really applied, you know, consistently across the year, and not necessarily just during a period of time where you just turn on your discounting mode on, just slash prices 30%, 50% off, and then later on in December you go back to another mode. I think this is actually a bad behavior, because it literally kind of breaks the business, because it's kind of context switching. It's actually like, I don't know, even creating consistency in the minds of your buyers and everything. And as you said, for example, if a buyer eventually see a price of an item at, let's say, $5, you already anchor them at that level. So next month, next, I don't know, quarter, etc. If you just try to charge them $15, I mean, that's really a hard sell because they know that they are already anchored for a $5 per piece. So due to that, I think trying to get, I don't know, the $8 mark forever in a way, rather than just $5 or $15 in different periods of time. That's I think supporting, because that's again the right approach for like annual profit gains. So not necessarily, because nobody kind of wins the business if you succeed in just one quarter. We all do, you know, we're all run businesses, so we don't just kind of appreciate our success by just looking into 1 month of a P&L or 3 months of P&L. We just eventually look at the numbers for the last year, for the last years, and so on. So I think that would be my advice and my actually like a focus this year, and actually it has been so in the last few years, like I said.
It never kind of fully occurred to me until you were talking about it then, Burc, about how if you're a brand that's constantly saying great prices, great prices, great prices, and then suddenly you drop them for one weekend of the year, how that kind of invalidates the rest of your 363 days of marketing. I often think of, you know, the brand value piece as being about we don't discount, but actually there's also the argument for we discount all the time. Why would we discount more? It's a really, really interesting angle. Thank you for that one. Okay.
Can I just sorry?
Oh, yeah.
Please do.
Very
quickly there.
Please do.
I think there's also a risk that I think there's a slight risk that we don't give consumers enough credit. But I think I often know what we're doing. And I say that because we did some research last year, and I think I cannot remember the number, but a large proportion of people were saying that actually the products I want to buy are not discounted on Black Friday. They'd sussed out that you were perhaps getting rid of the things that they didn't want, or only discounting the things that weren't going to hurt your profit margins, or etc. So I think that consistency piece is really important, actually, because they will see through it if you just suddenly, as you say, Chloe, if you normally price here and then suddenly you're discounting that great discount, you know, actually, I'm not sure that they're not cleverer than we've perhaps given them credit for in the past. Ooh.
You're on mute, Chloe, I guess.
I am not only am I muted, I'm failing to get my mouse to work. It's all gone horribly, horribly wrong. Ferret is agreeing with you, Fiona. Great point. So, so that's always good to hear that coming through. Any of you who are watching this live, I know a lot of you are picking it up on the replay, but if any of you are watching this live, want to feed a question through, please do get that added fairly soon, actually, because we're only here till the o'clock, and I'm going to run out of time to ask your questions, because as you've seen, all the experts are giving such great answers. So if you've got a question, get it in very, very soon. Let's double down on the profit side of things. If someone's going, right, we're doing Black Friday, but we want to improve margins on last year, we want to improve our overall profit from last year, would you be talking to them about segmentation? Would you be talking to them about clever product promotions like Claudio was talking about earlier? Would you be talking about turning off ads or diverting marketing spend, or, you know, focusing on something else? Where would you go with this? But you are nodding away, so I'll come to you first on this one.
I mean, I'm nodding because this is again very relevant, and this is actually again going to come from a very, very recent talk that I had with actually a client of ours. So we were just discussing about the marketing side of the like discounting in the coming months, because they already planned for, like the client already planned for great discounting strategies, this and that, but they were actually trying to figure out, for example, the right assortment of the product to be, for example, pushed into Google Shopping, CPC, etc., to appear more on the eyes of the buyers. So there we actually, I think, find a great like solution, and maybe a way that can be approached, applied by all merchants that are now tuning in. We for example now decided to segment the products depending on the competitiveness of the items. For example, you let's say have 5,000 products in your assortment, and you try to be both competitive and both profitable for all the items. Let's say you just try to be at least $5 cheaper than the cheapest competition, as long as you have 10% profit margin. So obviously, depending on the competition, etc., you cannot achieve that for all your 5,000 items. So maybe you will just only achieve that, maybe let's say for 1,500 of those. So instead of fully feeding your 5,000 products into those CPC channels, etc., we actually kind of identified those 1,500 items as the cheapest and profitable ones. And they are now going to double down only that specific assortment, which will eventually be appearing on the eyes of the buyers. So if they're actually discount shoppers, they will obviously like check out all the other competition. So they will click our merchants offer. They will also click the others. And eventually, if our merchants offer will be the best, so they will eventually convert from our merchant. If they did this with the full assortment, they would eventually also spend a lot of CPC during that peak season for products where they are not necessarily the cheapest. So we, I think, found a great, I know this sounds niche and maybe not applicable for everyone tuning in, but if you, for example, are thinking running a multi-brand retailer in harsh price competition and you cannot really achieve profitability by being very competitive, I think you can at least try to identify the right segment of your products where you can achieve that and double down on that assortment in your paid channels. And then leave the rest for, I don't know, organic traffic and all.
See, I think that's applicable to everybody with more than one product, to be honest. I mean, you gave us the Google Shopping example, which I think is something far more people should do, is factor in which product should actually be on my Google Shopping feed. But also, I think there's the wider of which products are we going to discount, which shouldn't just be about what have you got or what does the customer want to buy. It should also be about where have you got the margin where you can afford to reduce it. And there is nothing more depressing than talking to a retailer post Black Friday or post January sales who took too much margin off the wrong thing and is just seeing it all. They're making back less money than it cost them and they're paying for it to go out the door with the couriers. There is nothing more depressing than that. So I think that product segmentation, totally a great recommendation and applicable, like I said, to everyone with more than one SKU. Claudiu, what's your take on this one? Are we going back to conversion rate optimization? Or are we going somewhere else?
As important as that is, and as important as that is to affecting your return on ad spend, which they all have as a channel acquisition, I think you covered some really great points that I had on my mind, Chloe, to be honest, and Burc did such a good job at this that it's hard to beat that type of answer. I think on top of the on top of the product segmentation, something that I mentioned earlier is discount is not always the solution. And you've covered this as well. I think you can be more strategic about it to get better profit margins. And people can be impulsive if you know how to play the audience with some great psychological games, not dark patterns, good patterns, but consumer behavior can be influenced throughout the experience on the website. And I mentioned this before with gifting, with getting certain limits, urgency bundling. You can actually apply those tactics fairly easily and still get away with it and get some really great profit margins with it. Conversion rate is always important. It's extremely important. It's what's ultimately going to lead to that checkout. But I'm really excited, to be honest, to hear what Fiona has to say about it from her point of view, from loyalty, because I also think Black Friday, with all the traffic that you're getting and all the attention that you're getting, if your marketing team is doing a good job, you should be building that loyalty base. You should be building it. You should get all that traffic, turn into a loyal customer, and then continue to sell to that audience throughout months, further months after Black Friday. Burc said it really easily. In any business, it's not a sprint; it's a marathon. So there's going to be a tomorrow after Black Friday. Sales are not going to stop. So don't mess up your brand reputation. Don't be desperate about it. Be extremely strategic about this. I'm just probably just brainstorming and just vomiting a lot of ideas.
But it's spot on. And I think the other really depressing thing about Black Friday is everyone's like, well, we'll give all this money away now, be it in discounts or in marketing spend. And when we give all that money away, it'll be fine because it will come back in customer lifetime value. And right, what's your follow-up post Black Friday sequence? And it's like, nothing. Well, we're sending out some more emails, and you're like, oh.
No.
And then in the worst of scenarios, and we haven't really got into ops today, but then they let the ops thing just totally fall over, and they sell stock they haven't got, and all of that, and then with angry people who are never going to buy from you again. But Fiona, Claudia was handing it to you, so let's come to you for your perspective on this one. How do we increase those profits?
Yes, I think it's very similar to what Burc said, but different at the same time. So you were talking about segmentation and discounting different things to protect your margins. I actually think it's about segmenting people and offering different people different things to segment your margins. So, Chloe, as you just pointed out, we all hope for great customer lifetime value. The fact is, the new customers that you acquire on Black Friday have a lower lifetime value. I think that's been proven the last however many years. A, they're used to a discount. B, you don't know how long it's going to take them to come back, etc. Whereas you have a bunch of customers who've already shopped with you before, who you know will spend more. They typically have a higher average order value. They typically purchase more frequently, etc. So what we would recommend really is don't offer the same discount strategy to every single customer, because every single customer is not the same. So if you've got your top tier, most valuable, highest customer lifetime value, give them the free shipping, completely free shipping, or maybe the next day shipping, whatever costs you the most to deliver, give that to the people who you know you're going to see more ROI from, who you know you're going to get more profit from. And then scale it down. So your new customers, yes, you need to give them something to get them through the door. Yes, it probably is a discount. Don't give them free shipping. I mean, and again, it depends a little bit what your competitors are doing. If they're all doing free shipping, you might have to do something, but just tier it, scale it in a way that means you're giving away the most to the people who are giving you back the most, where you're going to see the most return, because that's going to protect your profit margins. And don't give away too much to the people who unfortunately are going to erode those margins. But as you say, focus on what you're going to do after Black Friday to get the next purchase from them. And then, you know, the more times they purchase, start scaling up again, start giving them more and more in return. But I think, yeah, a one size fits all approach where everybody gets the same level of discount or the same level of shipping or experience, that's where you're going to erode your margins the most.
Yeah, and I would add, I'm going to dip into ops again, because I do find the ops side of things fascinating, but it's also the case that for your VIPs, you can give a money can't buy benefit, which is if you're able to do this with your 3PL or in your own warehouse, flag their orders and get them out fast track their orders out the business, rather than treating all orders equally in the warehouse, because we know the warehouse is going to be on a backlog. We know that it's going to be slow for them to get things out. If you're very sensible, you'll have turned off next day delivery for a bit. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for pain. But see if you can find a way for those best customers to fast track it through so they get their orders faster, rather than the normal Black Friday delays. And that essentially costs you nothing. You know, it's not difficult.
And I think you're right, actually. A lot of, as you say, next day delivery is a bit of a pipe dream over Black Friday, and a lot of consumers will probably accept that if you're honest with them. As long as you don't promise something that you're not going to deliver on, we probably all know as shoppers that, yeah, we might have to wait a week for that item because retailers have got an awful lot on their plates, and most people are okay with that, so long as the expectation is set and you communicate. So then that does leave you in a position where you can, you know, cherry pick the most valuable customers and make sure that they do get that experience, because you're not trying to deliver it to everybody.
Very cool. Okay.
But sorry, may I add a comment? Like I might take the risk of being a pricing geek, like deep dive and so on, but I really wanted to add this on the product segmentation side of things. So there is this thing called key, like since you mentioned VIP abbreviation, I just wanted to add another abbreviation, which is KYE, key value items, as we call them in pricing terms, etc. So I think when it comes to deciding on the right products to discount, we should be better discounting, for example, milks rather than dried strawberries, because like people are just buying milk with price in mind. Mostly they just prefer the right brand, depending on, obviously, in most cases, depending on the price. But for example, when it comes to like sun-dried tomatoes, this and that, those are all impulse buying stuff. So you don't really check prices for, I don't know, sun-dried tomatoes. Obviously, some people do, but not most people do that. So those key value items, as Claudiu also said, are also great like traffic drivers. For example, if you really have a long-term strategy, as you rightfully said, like if you really have a follow-up strategy to milk, let's say, that's follow-on traffic throughout the rest of the year, we see some clients picking those key value items right, where where discounting resonates way more in the eyes of their buyers, and they really double down on, for example, paid spending for the discounts they apply to those products. And even, in some cases, obviously, if it's planned well, if it's calculated well, there's a strategy called loss leadership. So you might even accept a certain amount of loss to be made for an item. These are mostly like low ticket items, as Claudiu said, for example, $5, $10, not 500, dollars stuff. So if you, for example, take this $10 item, slash it down to, let's say, $4, and if people are really actually checking the price of that item, that's kind of a 60% off for only $6 of loss. And if, for example, you just really market that out loud on TV, on paid channels, etc., you can gain a lot of traffic and maybe okay with like $2, $3 of loss. But eventually you can just really convert a lot of like merchants' emails, loyalty signups, etc. Then that can be converted on, high ticket items, bundles, etc. So this is also a well-working thing. But again, we shouldn't really call all our items key value items. Obviously, this should be, 5, 10 items at max. And these should be really, handpicked, really after thought, like I said, after analysis. But it's really working well for some industries, I would say.
I love that sun-dried tomatoes are a go-to item for you.
I love
quite a special purchase for me.
Yeah, but do you price compare, for example? You just go to the supermarket and pick. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Just that commodity piece, isn't it? Right, guys, we are getting towards the end of the show now. So we are going to go into my final question for the three of you. We have, I reckon we must have hit 20 or more different Black Friday promo tactics during the course of this, if not far, far more. I'd be honest, I have not been keeping a tally, but we're definitely over the 20. So if there was one thing you want the audience to take away from what we've been talking about today, what would that one thing be? And you've each got about a minute to give me an answer for this. Otherwise, we'll end up overrunning. So I'll come to you first, Burc, then I'll come to Claudio, and then I'll finish up with Fiona. So, Burc, what's the one thing you want anyone listening to this to take away?
Yeah, I think I would better recap what I just said in few opportunities. I really would emphasize the importance of seeing this peak season as part of an annual marathon. So we have like 12 months in a calendar. This is just maybe 2 months, 3 months of peak season. But we should also consider the aftermath, what happens after, this peak period and stuff. And we shouldn't only, like I said with the Mike Tyson quote, we shouldn't really overplan because we might get a punch in the face and then all those plans might just die. So we should definitely have a plan in hand and then watch that plan carefully throughout the peak period. So peak period is just not 1 day, 1 hour or something. We just decide on some plans and then execute them. And as we execute, we should be agile and maybe eventually change what we planned in the beginning. And after that, we shouldn't also see discounting as just a kind of a activity that we only do Black Friday, Cyber Monday period. But we should definitely have a competitive pricing mentality, discounting strategy throughout the rest of the year. So this is just a few months in the calendar, and this is not the only months in the calendar. So we should really treat it carefully. We shouldn't overplan, and we should be agile during the peak period and after and before that.
Brilliant. Excellent summary. Claudio, your one thing they should take away.
Video, that's it. No, I'm kidding.
Nicely on brand.
No, seriously.
Videowise on video. Yeah.
What it all comes down to, I still come down to that conversion rate and to clearly communicate your product value proposition so that when that audience and your hard work spent ad money gets on your site, you have to clearly communicate why they should purchase your product. And we're doing this with video highly successfully with shoppable interactive video. We're working with TikTok on beauty brands, on skincare brands, on, all the fitness, wellness industry. And it's such a low-hanging fruit that a lot more people should know about it. It's such an easy win where you can increase margins, the AOV, conversion rate, revenue per session. We've seen some tremendous results from brands that are doing hundreds of millions of dollars per year. And when you even increase just 1 or 2 of those percentages are so significant when you're doing so much business. So that would be my main takeaway, is make sure you got that funnel fully optimized so that when people land, you've got to convert, and you make sure that you retain them. You clearly explain what you're selling, and you make sure that they purchase from you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you've got that content right around the product, you don't have to discount as much to sell it. It's as simple as that. Fiona, your take, your last thing, your thing they should take away from this.
Yeah, I had a whole thought on obviously loyalty lined up, but actually I changed my mind. And I think what I really would love people to take away is that they should have a bit of fun with Black Friday, because we all know what's coming. We know it's going to be discounts. We know it's going to be full inboxes. We know it's going to be increased ad spend, etc. So I think it's actually more about how can you be creative and try and do things a little bit differently, and whether it is with your pricing strategy, different products, whether it's with video, whether it is with a social campaign that doesn't discount. It could be anything, but I would be probably setting my team a bit of a challenge to actually think about how they could do it slightly differently, and I think that's what will get you not just Black Friday success, but that's, if you can get it right, that's what will keep customers coming back over and over again. If you can do something a bit more exciting, innovative, and creative, that otherwise you're just going to be another email in an inbox, another SMS, etc. So I actually, if you can arrange an offsite with your team and brainstorm for a day or something, just have, I think the takeaway would be try and do something a little bit more creative and differently.
I like that challenge, and I like it even more because I can see, I always think the e-commerce team, the marketing team, kind of have to be peeled off the floor at the end of Black Friday because they're spent, completely spent. But if they're doing something a bit more exciting, a bit more interesting, with a bit more emotion, happy emotion into it, maybe they'll be happy. We're all happy, but maybe they'll not need to be lifted off the floor and carried home at the end of it all.
And it's also a testing ground. It's an opportunity to test lots and lots of different things with a high volume of traffic. So
yeah. High consumer intent to buy. Why not test something cool and new? Well, guys, thank you so much for being on our inaugural eCommerce Explored panel. You have definitely bought the goods for the audience. So thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Claudio. Thank you, Burc, for being here. Thank you also to Prisync and to Videowise for being our sponsors of this first event. Much appreciated. That's it for this session. You'll get an email later today, tomorrow, with details of the replay, and we are leaving it up for people to sign up and come and see the replay for a few weeks yet, because we know you're all busy with Black Friday. So please do tell your team to come and listen, or share the news with anybody else, and they're welcome to come and dive in too. Obviously, we won't be live to answer their questions, but I'll keep an eye on the comments. If anything interesting comes up, I'll share it around the group and we will get back to you. The final thing for me to say is our next webinar is now available to sign up. That's number 2 in the e-commerce explored sequence. We are going to be talking about analytics strategy, the big hot topic. GA4 has screwed it up, or has it? You can't use your good old Google Analytics. What should you actually be paying attention to? Should you be paying for analytics? What do you do, and how is all this going to become central to growth, both this year, if you get it sorted out fast enough, but also in 2024. This is one of the big things I think brands should be thinking about, looking at, and getting in place as they go into 2024. You can no longer just do, did we tick the box to do Google Analytics? That is no longer enough, people. You actually have to think about this, and it's not a problem. It's a massive opportunity. Join us for that in October. web2.ecommerceexplored.com to sign up for free, and all will become clear and exciting on the subject of analytics next month. For now, though, thank you to our lovely panelists for this session. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully we'll see you in the next eCommerce Explored.
Cheers.
Cheers.